Hey there, it's Michela Quilici here, your business growth and marketing expert. I help coaches, consultants, small business owners, entrepreneurs, and experts like you navigate your business growth on purpose. And I'm super excited to be here with you today. This is my broadcast on becoming an elegant leader. Be seen, be heard, and be valued. And I truly believe that in order for us to be seen, heard, and valued, we must learn how to step into our own self-leadership. And so I created this as a space for us to do that, to get inspired and motivated and empowered so that we can totally step into who we need to become and who we truly need to be to create massive success for ourselves. So happy that you've decided to join us. Totally appreciate all the hearts and likes and shares. If you feel that this video is helpful, please feel free to share it with your friends, your colleagues, your business owner, compatriots, and get the information out there. If you have any questions or comments as we go through the broadcast, or if you're listening on the replay, just drop them in the comment box below. I'd love to dialogue with you today, and so we can get the conversation going. And if you are watching live from your computer or from your mobile device, just pop a note in the comment box below and say hi so that I can acknowledge you and so that I know who is watching the broadcast today. Okay, I'm super excited to share some juicy tips with you. And today I'm going to talk about tips for confidently leading the sales consultation. So in other words, this is anytime you go on a coffee date or you're getting, the get acquainted conversation with a prospect. Whenever you are in dialogue with a prospect in an effort to inspire them to work with you, you are in a sales conversation. And so in that sales conversation, there's some really important tips and really crucial things that you'll need to do in order to make sure that you're super supporting yourself. You're supporting yourself really well to create the best possible outcome for yourself and for the prospect. Because remember, we're here to be of service. We are here because we provide solutions to problems. And so it's in our best interest to really navigate that conversation well so that we can create a win-win situation for both parties involved, yeah? Okay, so why is this important in terms of confidently leading a sales conversation? So there's a couple things that might be popping up for you in this dialogue that you have with your prospects. So a couple things that I've definitely gone through myself and I see my clients go through as well during the sales conversation are things like, number one, the conversation sometimes wanders. It appears to wander. Maybe it goes off the rails, you get off topic, you get off track, and it's not super productive. So that's one problem that might be popping up, or one symptom that might be popping up for you. The second thing that might be popping up for you is a conversation that was supposed to only take 30 or 45 minutes all of a sudden is taking 1 hour or an hour and a half. It's going way over time, and maybe you're not sure, what's going on there. So if any of these symptoms are resonating with you, keep the video rolling because content's going to be super relevant for you. The third symptom or problem that might be popping up for you in the sales consultation is this notion of feeling like you are giving. So you're excited, you know how to help your prospect, you know exactly what they need in their business to succeed, and so you're giving, right? And you're giving and you're sharing, But then at a certain point, that giving and sharing seems to cross a line, and you feel like, oh, I've given away the farm. And the prospect is saying, you're so awesome. Thank you so much for all this great information. You're such a resource, and this is so great, and it's been so helpful. Thank you so much. And then they don't step into working with you. And you're kind of left feeling a little bit taken, feeling a little bit like angry maybe, or frustrated, or devalued. So if any of those symptoms resonate with you, keep it rolling. We got some great information that we're going to dialogue on today, because at the end of the day, what we really want, right, when we're having a conversation with our prospective clients, is we want to feel confident, we want to feel like we're being heard, that we feel like we're being respected, and that ultimately that they want to work with us, and that they're super excited about working with you and stepping into your program or your service offering. So that's the ultimate goal, yeah, the win-win. So there's a story I want to share with you about this. A lot of the time, I get or see or hear comments around coffee dates and the get acquainted conversation. And a lot of the times, and I've definitely felt this myself back at the beginning of growing my business, a little frustrated with the whole concept, and a little frustrated like when, like those symptoms that I mentioned earlier, when that happens to you often enough, it doesn't feel good, right? It doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel productive, and you can get frustrated. And so sometimes I hear like comments like, I'm so frustrated, what's wrong with people in this town? What's wrong with people not valuing my time? Coffee dates are a waste of time. I don't want to do them anymore, and basically it sucks. That's the gist of what I hear all the time. And so I can't count the number of times I hear that. And so it's interesting. I received an email from a business owner in my network, and so I entered into a conversation with her, and I want to share with you a little bit about how that played out, because it's super relevant and very insightful. So she sends me an email, and this is just an excerpt, but I'm going to read to you a little bit about what she said here. So she said, Michela, I'm a little bit discouraged with the things that I see in this community. It's not a very good place for connecting with others and getting to know people. People just seem interested in selling themselves, and nobody seems really interested in learning more about me. So the underlying message here is that basically the community, the people are no good. That's basically the underlying message, is that the people and the community are no good. So it's interesting because I truly believe that human beings place a judgment on whether something is good or whether something is bad, and usually it's based on what we believe. That's where that opinion and that assessment comes from, is what we firmly believe. And it's interesting because there's no such thing as a place or a person being no good. It just is. And so this is a super empowering place to be, knowing that you have the ability to change the way you show up, what you say, what you do. And when you do that intentionally and mindfully, you can completely influence the conversation that you have with people, and you can completely influence the situation and how you're engaging with that situation or that opportunity or that activity or that task or that person. And it just completely changes the way you might think about this sort of thing. It puts you in a place of empowerment. And I really don't believe that people are victims. We are not victims of our own circumstances. I am a case in point. You know, I wouldn't be where I am today if I had chosen to be victimized by my early childhood and situations and people and interactions that I had, which were very traumatic and very dysfunctional and very painful. I chose to rise above that. And so I truly believe, and I know you believe this too, is that we are not victims. Nobody's a victim here. No matter what, how challenging the circumstances we find ourselves in, we can create the change and we can be the change that we want to see. We can choose to empower ourselves with a different perspective. And therein lies the beauty of life and how we're showing up and how we're engaging, not only with our prospects, but with our clients and, and with our businesses. And so back to the interaction that I had with the business owner and the email that she sent me. So I was curious about her choice of words. And so I reached out to her. And I wanted to really understand what was going on. The way my brain works is I'm always looking for the root cause. I'm always looking at the diagnosis. I love to diagnose things so that I can really get a sense of what's that kernel of truth, what's really going on in this situation, and what do we need to change about how we're showing up, what we're saying, what we're doing, in order to create that different reaction or that different response. So I came at it from a place of curiosity and I reached out to her. And I asked her a couple of key questions and I just listened. And what I discovered was that what she was doing was she was reaching out to people to, have these coffee dates from networking events, right? She was following up with people. And what she was feeling was that people weren't really interested in getting to know her. And what she was feeling was that she was feeling like she was being sold to, and that she wasn't really being heard. And so this was our dialogue, and I want to share this dialogue with you. It's super insightful. Okay, so I asked her, I said, when you schedule your coffee date with people, are you clear about what the nature of the conversation is going to be? And she said no. I said, do you establish an agenda for the meeting? And she said no. Then I asked, do you lead the conversation and lay out why you're meeting, what the intended outcome is going to be, and how the conversation is going to flow in terms of taking turns to learn more about your businesses and how you can support one another? And her response was no. So I asked, so when you feel that the conversation is going off track or it's moving in a direction that's uncomfortable for you, do you speak up about it? And she said no. So let's recap. She's scheduling a meeting with a potential prospect, right? Without having a clear agenda, without leading the discussion. She's disappointed with the results, and she's concluding that the other person she's meeting with is not interested and this is just not good, right? So herein lies the opportunity, is that you can totally design and craft your interaction. You can totally design that. And design it beforehand, right? Be purposeful about all of these things that I mentioned in terms of being clear about what you want. What do you want out of this conversation, right? So here's the thing. The heartbreaking news is that I hear this kind of self-sabotage behavior all the time from people, right? This is a tiny, tiny example of the benefits of learning how to step into your good self-leadership. This is just but what tiny, tiny example, because it's all about supporting yourself well in everything that you're doing. And in order to do that, we must learn to step into our own self-leadership to do that. So I've got some tips for you that will be super, super helpful. And if you have any other tips as well, I would love to hear them. Pop them in the comment box below in terms of what's worked for you on the coffee date. Okay, what's worked for you? What have you done that has worked for you? Please share your tips. Would love to create a bunch of best practices that you will be able to implement right away and see dramatically different results for yourself. Okay, here's 3 tips I have for you. 3 tips for claiming your own empowerment when communicating with others. Okay, so this is not just the coffee date, but you can take this to all sorts of conversations and engagements you have with others. The first one is you want to be sure to take the lead. Okay, take the lead in the conversation. This doesn't mean that you need to be a drill sergeant about it. Okay, doesn't mean you need to kind of have your list of questions and start, hammering the other person to really sort of take control. It doesn't need to be like that. You can be graceful and be elegant. Assume the leadership position. Here's one trick that I learned early on in my career, which was that the person who steps up will be seen as that leader. All you need to do is claim your space as a leader, as your own personal leader, and you will be seen as a leader. And perception is everything, because guess what? If you don't step up and take the leadership position, you may not like where the other person is taking you, because the reality is that people like to be led. People like to know what's going on, and most people like to follow. Most people like to be taken by the hand and be led. And so assume that position and be the navigator of that conversation. Kari, you've got a tip. Having a clear agenda during the sales connection meeting. Absolutely. And you've stolen my thought. That's exactly what I was going to mention. Also reiterating the goals of the meeting right at the beginning, so you're both clear on the topic of conversation. Absolutely. It's like an outline that I state at the beginning of all meetings, so clarity is right there. Absolutely. That is such a crucial thing to remember, is to have a clear sales agenda and to reiterate that at the beginning of all the conversations. So as soon as you sit down, you take the lead, you put on your leadership hat, and you begin to build rapport, and then you can share what you feel might be a good agenda, and so that you can co-create that experience with the other person. So my second tip, which has already kind of been mentioned, is establishing clear expectations. So discuss your intentions and your expected outcomes. Your intentions and your expected outcomes. These become then like your goalposts for the conversation. So if you can just imagine goalposts, right, like soccer or football. You've got your intentions and you've got your outcomes. And so you're creating that container within that space. And that is the space in which you're having that dialogue. So you're always guided by your intentions and the expected outcomes. And you want to make sure that you and that other person are on the same page with those two things. So check in with them too before you dive in, to make sure that all of your intentions and all of your expected outcomes are on the table, so that you're co-creating that conversation and that dialogue to really get to that win-win outcome. What that also does as a bonus is it helps really build rapport, and it helps you both be heard, so that it's very fair in terms of the give and take of the conversation, and so that you don't feel like you're being taken at the end. You don't feel like you're not being heard, and you don't feel like the conversation has gone off the rails. So the third tip, which Kari already mentioned, is developing an agenda and being very clear on what that is. And so what I also like to do is I like to, at the time of scheduling the meeting, I like to include the agenda in the email as well when I'm scheduling the date, so that expectations are being set from the get-go, and you can each prepare beforehand, and so that when you come to the table, you're both on the same page already, which then, the magic already starts to happen. And it's not, you don't feel like you're getting off on the wrong foot, or you're backpedaling, or you're just unclear as, okay, what are we talking about, and what are we doing here? And Alan, thanks for joining us today. I'm so glad you're loving these tips. Please share any tips you have for how you are creating success in your own sales conversations. We'd love to get some best practices going in this comment thread. So those are the main tips I have for you today. Take the lead, establish clear expectations, make sure you have an agenda, setting your intentions and your outcomes. Be sure that you are co-creating the experience together. And, come at it from a place of, like I mentioned at the beginning, coming at it from a place of really stepping into your own self-leadership and being empowered to create that win-win dialogue and situation for both of you sitting at the table. Totally appreciate you being with me today, and if you found this video and these tips helpful, please share them with your colleagues and your clients, any business owners, coaches or consultants who are perhaps struggling with the sales conversation, or they're just feeling frustrated in how to really create a successful outcome, and would love for you to share that. Appreciate any hearts and likes as usual. So great to be here with you today, and be sure to subscribe to my broadcasts. At the end of this video, you should be able to do that. What else do I want to share? What I want to share is that my whole purpose is to ignite you into your own awareness. Because when we have awareness, we have clarity, we have the ability to create massive success for ourselves. And we really then step into being our own best leader and designing the business and the life that we love. So I dare you, be visible, ignite your potential, express your brilliance, because the world is waiting. What are you waiting for? I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.